All right, so your book, and again, they talk about the different types of listening styles. This is also communication style, so we don't have to necessarily just, block it into only listening styles. So you can see how you prefer to communicate, and it may be an indicator of what you prefer to listen to in others. So we have the first one, your people-oriented, your people-pleasers. Okay, gift of gab, individuals that just really know how to talk to anyone, highly audience-centered. Some examples of this would be, is there anyone in here that knows how to tell a really good joke, like you never can fail? Yeah? No. No? Okay. Yeah? No? Okay, how about you know that person that can tell? I know there's people that think they can tell a joke, they're really not good and they shouldn't, but how about you know that person that can tell a really good joke? Okay, they're kind of an entertaining person, and when I say like know how to tell a good joke, they could come in here and tell a joke that everybody could appreciate. They could go down to the bar and tell a joke, or they could tell their grandmother the same joke, and they're able to adapt it in a way that everybody can appreciate. Is that okay? So that would be your people-oriented person. They like to talk, and they like to please. So they'll do just that. Highly audience-centered, and they can tell story after story. They're the people that you want around your campfire. They're the life right there. So we know some of those people. They might embellish stories a lot. Okay, so you're starting to realize those people in our lives. Generally very well-liked individuals. Next one, action-oriented. This is the polar opposite of your people-oriented. Okay, these individuals want to take as little time as possible to get to the point. In fact, they get very irritated. There's a lot of stories involved. Okay, so they're brief with words. The shorter you can get to the bottom line, the better. Who knows that person? You know that person too? How many of you are that person? We have a lot of action-oriented people in here. Okay, so you probably prefer text messages or bullets. Okay. Show your examples.
Oh, I'm just saying with her specifically, I think it's funny because I'm very much like, okay, let's get to the story, but then when it's the other way and she's listening to me, like I can talk all day about like different things. I'm like, oh, guess what, there's this too, and I forgot to tell you this earlier. But
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so I'm glad you recognize it right away, those two differences. The next one, content-oriented. Now these individuals, they're very dedicated to information, detail-oriented. So how many of you, now that you're doing your projects, you have way more sources that you could possibly use? Okay. And you can have more than one, so you can relate to more than one of these. So we have a couple of you that are starting to show the signs of being content-oriented. If you know the Strengths Finders, that input is part of that, which means that you collect things, you collect information. If you want to know a hobby, then you will learn everything you possibly can about that hobby. You're an expert. Is that you? Okay, so you're feeling yourself come out in this. Does anybody else identify with this? Okay, so content-oriented, the thing to remember about them is they are highly accurate. They are not going to embellish. And they're going to have so much knowledge about whatever love they have. It's not going to be everything in the world, but if you decide it's going to be that thing, you're going to know everything about it. And so this person knows their stuff. If you find out somebody has a hobby in this and they're content-oriented, you want to talk to that person. Okay, home improvements, are you content-oriented? Okay, that's who you want to talk to. And then time-oriented usually has a set time. Here we go, we look back at the clock. Have to make sure we're out of here in 35 minutes. Okay, so they're very conscious of the time, which you can see any of these falling underneath this. So looking at this now, okay, let's just see what we can do in order to understand how we get along with others. Who is going to not get along naturally? Okay, so action, you can see that. Okay, how many of you have felt like that when time is pressed? You're just trying to check out at the grocery store and you got chatty cashier. Okay. Okay, so we can see that. There's a little more patience in there, but yes, you can see that happening. You're like, I am not done giving you the details of my hobby. What about people and content oriented? Are they going to get along? They're going to be both talking a lot.
You said the content and action?
Content and people.
Oh, content and action. Yeah, probably.
Okay, so we have the people pleasers versus the very accurate people.
They might not get along. I don't know, people, pleasers like to embellish, and content oriented are really into like being precise and accurate.
Okay.
So they might both talk a lot, but in very different ways.
That's going to be a major conflict between them. It's just like, you're lying about how big the fish was. It really wasn't that big. And everybody's like, just relax. It's just a story. No, it is not just a story because it's inaccurate. So you can start to see where that uptight nature, by the way, I'm content oriented. I tend to get very uptight when things aren't right. And I've had people just tell me to calm down because that's not the point of the story. Everybody's having a good time. So can you identify yourselves in this? Okay. And that doesn't mean that every situation you're always going to fall under that. There's times where some of us will be action-oriented and other times where you're just as relaxed as can be and you can enjoy the story or you can tell the story. Okay, so it's important for us to understand what we prefer and the people around us so that we can start bridging those misunderstandings together. If I know that somebody is people-oriented and they're people-pleasing, I know that that's important for them and that embellishment is probably going to happen and I shouldn't make a big deal out of it. So they're more connecting with others. So those are the things, if we can recognize that in ourselves, if I'm action-oriented, I may miss important details of what people are saying, or I may be missing out on connections with others. So if I could, and I'm not asking people to change who they are, but if you can recognize that, that can help us give the perspective, maybe just calm down a little bit if we are one of the more uptight types of listening styles. And then, of course, on the other side, if you like to talk a lot and somebody's asked me about a recent hobby that I've just started and I'm talking away, I might want to really pay attention to your body language to see if you were just being polite and or if you really want to know. You may just be polite and not want the 2-hour conversation on this thing. So we just have to know where we are, what we prefer, so that we can lend a little lenience and patience with each other. Okay, if this were in a lineup of a test, would you be able to identify these? Fantastic. Okay. Distractions. Okay, I shared my story before. Oh, I was distracted. I read the message too early, or too fast. I had made assumptions. I didn't read all the words. And I was making announcements to other family members, to my father, about a baby coming. So that's one thing. Okay, getting too busy. What else distracts us? Yeah. Yeah. Busy college students, you're hungry, you don't feel well. So all those things that we talked about in the communication process, those are things that distract us. Our phones, other people. So there's a lot of things that happen. If we kind of go back to some of the things that our book is talking about. That can be a big barrier. Your book focuses on a couple of things. So going back to, and these are things that we've talked about, the jumping to conclusions, the judgments of others, these are things, you know, oh, I know what you're gonna say is this, you know, so us being the big know-it-alls on something may not actually be, and that can, and we'll talk about some of the other barriers that can come into place. And I'm not saying anybody's guilty of this, but we could have some issues with our emotions and how we listen. If you're really upset about something or really happy about something, that can change the whole process. So in your groups, take a moment and with these ideas, talk about some of the things that are some of your biggest distractions in listening.